Okay, so it seems like this happens almost every week, and it's technically gonna happen next week. No, not really next week. Well, no, it could. But this week, today is gonna be the comic reviews. Tomorrow is going to be Omnibus Fridays. Saturday is going to be part one of a comic haul, provided the book comes in the time. Always does. And then Sunday, because Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sunday will be. I don't know. I'll fit something in because I want to do 4 videos in a row. And then I have 2 books that are from third-party sellers, so those will come in sometime next week. Hopefully early next week. Be nice if it was Monday, but it would be Wednesday, best case scenario. But without further ado, let's get into it. 4 movies first. And the only good movie out of all of these was The Northman. And even this had a pretty slow first act. I liked the opening scene. That was done really well. And kind of got you into the, into what the movie's going to be like. And kind of got you into it, so to speak. Into the, what do they call it? Into the feel of what the movie's going to be like and all that. And after that, it was a bit slow here and there. I mean, I liked some parts, like the ritual was kind of strange, and it was definitely like there was parts in it I liked. And once we got past the first act, it got even better. Like, it's one of those movies that it makes up for the slower parts of the movie with the second and third acts. And it's absolutely a movie I recommend to all fantasy historical fiction fans. I'd say it's more historical fiction than fantasy. It's Vikings too, so if you like Viking movies, you'll like this one. And I said I didn't get this on Blu-ray because I was gonna watch it downstairs on the big TV. But they have parts in it that were subtitled, and there were still a couple parts. So I probably could have done without it. Honestly, the subtitle parts are the parts I forget the least with the movie. It was a song, yeah, but it was kind of like you could argue it wasn't like necessary. And I did not check out the deleted scenes. Movie's long enough without watching the deleted scenes afterwards. I'm probably still not do that, honestly. There's like a few of them I will, but if I really like the movie, but it was like just a little bit shy of it. Now on to the movies that were either disappointing or just bad. First up, Shazam was extremely disappointing. This is the second one, Fury of the Gods. I should probably tell you guys how I felt about the first one, just in case you never knew or whatever, or you never I never said anything about it. I really enjoyed the first one. I thought it was a welcome surprise. It was a surprise from DC, because DC EU was like all like bleak and depressing, and finally we get something that's actually, what a comic book movie should be, for Shazam. It wasn't like because Superman. This basically the first Shazam is what the Superman movie should have felt like. Not necessarily like been the same as it, but it should have felt like that. That more like hopeful, upbeat kind of movie. The second one does have that, but it also just has a lot of problems. The main one being, it just feels like a huge step down. It feels like everything that was done right in the first movie is kind of done wrong here. It's still a passable movie. I still wouldn't complete. I wouldn't say it's a complete. It's devoid of anything for anyone. It's just kind of disappointing. It's just okay. Very middle of the road movie, and honestly, at times it felt like most of the time it felt like a Disney Channel movie. Then we have Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania, and I guess this is the most enjoyable out of the 3 of the superhero movies I watched this past week or so. But it's still not that great. Is that pulling out? No, it's not. Just kind of good. Just because the way my library has the DVDs, they have a little security tag on them. And when you take it off, it's more loose. But this one, I found more enjoyment out of it, and there were parts where I was like, if you had kept it up like this, that'd be actually a good movie, and would have been well reviewed, and probably would have made bank at the box office. But it's just kind of middle of the road. It's average MCU. And we got The Flash, and I really hated this one. There's some parts I liked, like that. I will stand by this even after watching YMS's review of this movie, which I recommend you all watch. It's YMS The Flash, which would be his most recent video, honestly. Um, and he honestly, he and I seem to see eye to eye in a lot of things. Not superhero movies in general, although as the time goes on, I'm starting to agree more and more with him, even on that. But he and I had like the same problems with this movie, except for the ending. I will give one thing. The ending was well acted, and I liked like it was definitely a give you all the emotion you needed. You know, you watch the movie, and you got all the emotion you needed to feel for the characters at that moment. And I will admit that that was the only scene that I could say was well done. Everything else is just standard fare, and it was kind of disappointing that Michael Keaton's Batman wasn't focused on as much. I feel like something like No Way Home did it a lot better than. I mean, that's saying a lot, obviously, but it did a lot better than the Flash. Even if like it was half as good as No Way Home, that would still have been a massive improvement over what we actually got with the Flash, with Batman. And I feel like it was kind of just a huge missed opportunity. They should just cast like I don't know, like just a random Batman, for a random person to play Batman, and made him Thomas Wayne. But there was a couple things I guess I liked, but not a whole lot, and I will not be watching this again. Oh, and the elephant in the room is all the stupid little things at the end with all the little cameos with dead actors. I know I love when they dig the graves and bring out the rotted corpse of an actor who didn't like playing Superman, or I gotta research that. But I'm talking about Christopher Reeve. Apparently, like after Superman, I think he said Superman like he got injured. No, it was someone else. Because he got injured horseback riding, I believe. And he was like completely paralyzed or something like that. But I think he just and remember he didn't like playing Superman, or he didn't like being known. It was typecast as Superman, so he's like, oh well, that's all people know me as. I believe that's what it was, something like that. And you know, DC Comics does this. I know that was the main reason. That was the main reason for the controversy. It was something along those lines. But I can't even recommend this one, honestly. Like, there's nothing in this movie that's worth watching for anyone else. I mean, if you want to see what the whole fuss is about, then go see it like a guy did. But other than that, I just said no. Now on to the books, and yeah, it doesn't matter what order I go in. Uja Uja, I still really do like this book. It's a very controversial author, but I do think this is her best work that I've read thus far. I will be checking out Megan Visagio, because you want to know the author's name. And I will be checking out, I have checked out a movie from, god damn it, it's a movie. Book. We're on books now, my mind. Books, comics. I did check out a comic series from her called Vagrant Queen, and it was even featured on Near Mint Conditions channel. But it was before he had read it. So hopefully that's the at least the middle ground, where it's not as good as this is, but not as bad as her Kim and Kim. Because her Kim and Kim I felt to be kind of just like annoying. Let's stack these better than they're stacked now. What the movies there? Just files. Then we have Squire, a very thick book, and it was a very long book too. And I probably should not pick this one as the first one. It's been a lot. It took me a long time to read this one. Not like a long ass, like it was more than a day, but it was like an entire night, honestly. And I like this one. It was very enjoyable. I think this is a very good addition to the kind of Wind fan base. Like if you like Wind, to like this one. This one, it's different enough to where it's not like, oh, this could take place in the Wind universe. No, it couldn't. It was just that same young adult, kind of Netflix crowd, but it was. This should be adapted into a Netflix show. I enjoyed it. I don't know why. A lot of these I have not a whole lot to say about them. Taproot was just strange. Oh yeah, that's right too. It's like, wait, what did the book go? That was the OG, and I read it all at once. This one, it was very quick, but it was kind of just like, okay. Not a whole lot to it, other than if you want the LGBTQ representation, but it was just kind of like a simple story that like could have been told in a 10-page Marvel Voices anthology comic, not a pretty thick book like this. And a lot of that was because there's a lot of splash pages, and that does add to the atmosphere of the comic, and I will give it that. And there was a little bit more to it, but honestly, it's pretty forgettable too. Honestly, but I'm glad I read it. I probably wouldn't read it again though. Dirtbag Rapture. This one was not one of those books where I read it the second time and I like it a lot better than it the first time, and it redeems itself. In fact, I think I hate it a bit more. It's just kind of like dull. Honestly, it's the best word to describe this book is dull. There's not a lot here. It kind of has a good premise, but it's not really executed all that well. And it's a shame because honestly, I say, oh, good luck, books from Christopher Sabala. I think either way would bought those. Either, anyways, And Crowded, at least I know I liked. It was a bit clunky there, but I still liked it in the end. But this one was just kind of. This one was just mediocre. Not that great. And honestly, I probably would be of all the books I read this month. I read this past weeks. I would probably say that this was the worst of them. I will not be checking this one out again. Next up, we have Bloodborne, and I really wish they had Volume 4. This is Volume 3. I really wish they started again. Next up is Bloodborne. I really wish they had Volume 4 of this series because they don't. Because this is a really good book. It's really enjoyable. Yeah, I have no idea what's going on. There's a lot going on, and it's kind of like you can gather some. I kind of forget what I read after I read it, but I remember it's really good. It's a nice little fantasy comic. If you like the Bloodborne video games, you'll probably like this. I can't say that for certain because I don't know anything about the video games. I think I know even less about the video games than when I put this book, that would happen in the book. But it's just so good. And honestly, Ales Cott and fantasy, he should write fantasy comics from now on. Not be typecasted into them, of course, but write more fantasy comics. He probably has. I haven't searched through his entire bibliography, but nothing he's done for Image Comics was fantasy. It's all kind of like there was a superhero one. There was a police officer, like post-apocalyptic one. There's actually two of them. Three technically. I guess one was a 2-volume series. But never in a fantasy book for Image, and that's his strong suit. And superhero stuff. I did like a Secret Avengers the second time I read it, and it's a great example of a book that I hated the first time, loved it the second time. And it was pretty recent too. Next up, we have Red Mother Volume 2, and like with Bloodborne, it's a series that they don't have the final volume of the series. Now, that would have been the final volume of Ales Cott's run. I know there's a Volume 5 written by another favorite author of mine, Colin Bunn, but I wanted to at least read the Ales Cott run, all in physical form. But this one, I know they didn't have Volume 3, but I'm going to check out the next volumes of that in this sooner rather than later. But this one was very enjoyable. It's a very good. It's a page turner. Like this is the type of comics that I want for indie publishers. It's a perfect example of why indie comics are slowly starting to become more popular than the big two are. It's because they can tell a story and they can have actual stakes, they can have actual mystery, and it's not just like, oh well, it's all gonna work out well in the end. That's status quo. No, it can go anywhere. And of course, like so can superhero comics. Of course, I know they can at times, sometimes at a certain point, but only up to a certain point. But very enjoyable book, and I highly recommend this book. Probably the highest recommendation, honestly. Planet of the Apes was as good as it was the first time, but my god, is this book a thick book? Like this, it's funny because if I had gotten this hardcover, let's say this is a hardcover Marvel Comics omnibus, I would have looked at this and I would have been like, that's not enough. It's such a small book, why? But now, I can safely say that this book was not even 700 pages, and it might as well have been 1,000 pages. It took me a long time to read this one. And more so, I was reading like 5 issues a day kind of thing, not like I took more than I usually do. But it was the last book I read, honestly. I just finished that. Let's check the Amazon thing. It's the last book I read. But it was very good. It's a lot of book, and Now I'll never take for granted a smaller Marvel omnibus. That's about 30 issues too. I think it's the least of what you get for and that's like on average what we get from Marvel Comics. I'm saying Amazon from Marvel Comics. Some of them are kind of BS. Because one of them is like 9 issues. And speaking of Planet of the Apes, there's a 224 page hardcover omnibus. It's $100. It's actually more than that. Because of restoration, but that still pisses me off about that. It's like you're just funding more times where Marvel can do that. Cause you can't. Come on, like 224 for $100, if not more. I think it was actually 125. It was like what, like 5 issues? No, it was like not been 5 issues. I think it was 12 issues. But moving on to God, and I understand it was restoration. You know, I get it. It's an older comic, but it's like, I mean, Star Wars that came out around the same time, and those omnibuses aren't that expensive. At least I don't think so. And if they are, it's because they give you a lot, not more than what they give you for the guy for Planet of the Apes. One I read was Boom Studios, by the way. I know it confused you guys when I trailed off to Marvel omnibuses. But anyways, God is Dead, Volume 3. Still really enjoyable. Again, a lot going on. I kind of lose the plot, but there were some things I will, like, you know, I remember, like, oh yeah, that I remember when that happened, you know, that kind of thing. And get, like, kind of like a continuation of that story. But, like, a lot going on in that book. But it's still very enjoyable. Livewire, Volume 2? Yes, Doy. Volume 2, out of 3, no Volume 3. But this one, I'm not going to clamor, like, right away to read Volume 3. I'll still put it in my reading list, but, yeah, this one was just kind of okay. Not terrible. You know, it's Vita Ayala, so her book, a book that's from her, it's not terrible, that means it's good, in that regard. But in judging it by an actual comic series, it's just okay. But honestly, also, it's Valiant, and nothing I like from Valiant, so again, that means it's good in that regard, but just okay. In general. Wicked and Divine, there's a reason why this might be on my Christmas wish list. Or, yeah, well, it is on my Christmas wish list. This is a damn good series. This is volume 6 already? I think we're at volume 6 already. Text. But yes, very, very good series. Again, we're in volume 6, guys. Not a whole lot else I can say about it. Just read it. If you like fantasy comics, you like independent comics, you like Kieran Gillen, you're in for a treat. Next up, we have Rain. This is the original comic that was like a novel. It was a short story in the Strange Weather anthology book, not comic book, book, written by Joe Hill, but David M. Booher does the adaptation. And I like this book. I read it before. I liked it a lot the first time. I love it here. There's a few annoying, like, isms that are in modern comics, but it's very brief. And it's honestly nothing to be at all concerned about. You know, it's not like it's like it doesn't take away from the comic. It is there. I do need to mention it, but it's just kind of like, it's very brief, you know. There's some references into it, but it's kind of like, if you ignore it, you can still find enjoyment in this book. There's a lot of it, though. It is very present, but again, it's brief. It doesn't like halt the story at all. You know, like any other book would do. Still very enjoyable, though. The Walking Dead. It's book 1, and like with the first time, it's a very slow start, but when it gets going, it gets going. Highly recommend this book. I've read it before, so it's not really a particular week, because I only reserve those to books I haven't read before, and this one I have. Been a long time, so maybe I'll make an exception, but probably not. Next up, we have Graveyard Wars, and like the first time, I did enjoy it, but here I felt a bit more clunky at times. I feel like it could have been a little bit more of a rewrite, and it would have been a bit more enjoyable, and would have, you know, heightened it up a bit more. But I still recommend it. I still want volume 2, because it ends on a huge ass cliffhanger. It's like, come on. Green Arrow Year 1, probably my favorite DC comic by Andy Deagle so far. I haven't read a whole lot by him, But it's a very good, like, this is the definitive Green Arrow year one. Although I say that and then remember Chuck Dixon's year one. But it does take inspiration from that story. So I guess you could say it's the best modern interpretation of his origin. But it's very good Green Arrow book. If you like Green Arrow and you haven't read this book, do it. Do yourself a favor and read it now. And it's a good starting point for, as the name Year One implies, it's a good starting point for new readers too. So I actually recommend it to everyone. Batman Thrill Killer was really damn enjoyable. It's a nice little Elseworld story, beautifully painted artwork. Artwork is incredible, and the story is pretty good. But like with a lot of Howard Chaykin's books, I believe there was another one I read by him. I read the Marvel Snapshot Spider-Man, yes, but I thought I read something else by him. But like a lot with his books, it's very dialogue heavy, but it's still enjoyable. It wasn't one of those books that I was kind of like annoyed with because it was so dialogue heavy. No, it was the right amount of dialogue. It's like it kind of walks that fine line between being not enough, of being like just your normal average comic book dialogue, and being too much. In the middle there. It's still enjoyable. Yeah, I know that's in the fall. Next up is Superman Emperor Joker. I will show the book in a second here. And I really enjoyed it. It was a nice little Silver Age homage, and I like the Silver Age. I like homages better than the actual books, better than the actual era themselves. But this was, if you missed that, like, more zany, like, crazy, throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks kind of book, this will cleanse that appetite. Future's End Volume 2 is just enjoyable. And that is all a comic book needs to be for me to recommend it. Not like huge recommend, but just to me to recommend it. If it's enjoyable enough. If I'm never bored when I'm reading this book, that means you wrote a damn good book. But damn good as in damn entertaining. This is really damn entertaining. It's kind of, it's junk food. The perfect way to explain it is it's junk food. It is not going to offer any, like, insight. It's not going to be, like, his most important comic of all time and, it brings him a new table. No, it's just a crazy story about a future, about a dark future in the DC universe. But I enjoyed it. The Unwritten is pretty good, but it's just good. It's good, not great. I think what holds it back is it's not like. And don't get me wrong, I still recommend this series. I still think it's severely underrated, but it's not one of those, like, it's kind of like, it's good. I'll still read it, but yeah, I will be disappointed my local library doesn't have the conclusion to the series. But it's not one where I'd probably read it again. Honestly, I probably will only read the series once. It is a bit exhausting. There's a lot of dialogue, a lot going on, and there's very damn articles. There's none in here. There's a very brief one, I believe, that it wasn't an article, but it was done right. It was a passage in someone else's story that was important to the actual story itself, so you had to read it. But that is one thing that leads it back. Is that it definitely is a book that I know I'll take my time with because it's a lot. But it's still very enjoyable. I still like a lot of the characters, and we do meet one of my favorite characters here again. I was very happy to see his return. He's kind of one, without giving too much away, and those of you who read the series will know what I'm talking about. He's a character you love to hate. Transmetropolitan Volume 8. So a very damn good book. This and the next one are my favorite comics of all time. But this, as you all know, Preacher is my favorite comic of all time, and it will continue to be that way. And nothing has come close to how enjoyable this book is. This is book 6, is the end, and I still felt the same emotion that I felt at the first time. That is crazy. How the hell do you feel the same emotion after you read a book for the first time and you have the 17th? Now, of course, it's not the same exact feeling because I didn't know how the book was going to end, but it's just like that kind of like the perfect end to a perfect comic series, honestly. Then we have the Star Wars books, and and Poe Dameron is still the middle of the road, just okay kind of book. I still want to see how it ends, but it's just kind of, it's middle of the road. So Star Wars and Darth Vader have a crossover called Vader Down. And if I did the math correctly, I can't get more than what I already have on my wish list. And I have to take one out of my wish list for the library itself, and that's going to be Poe Dameron. That's most likely going to be Poe Dameron. The one I'll be replacing it with, you'll see why, and I'll explain why. But, yeah, and there's a reason for why I probably won't get it. And I also, I'm on the same volume for all these series, and because this series goes on to a crossover series, and goes back to volume 3 is after the crossover video down, I still want to be on the same page as all the books, so that's probably what I'll do. It made the decision all the more easier. But anyways, Darth Vader and Star Wars continue to be the best of Disney Star Wars in general. The comics, movies, everything. Why can't we have gotten this level of writing with the movies? If we got that level of writing with the movies, it would have been critically, well, it wasn't actually kind of, critics didn't really like the trilogy, except for the last one, but everyone would have enjoyed the sequel trilogy if it was anything like this. Very enjoyable. I honestly can't pick my favorite. Maybe Karen Gillan's a little bit better, but even then, hard to choose. They're both damn good. If you like Star Wars, I love those. The Defenders, Volume 1. This is how you know that I am a huge, extremely lenient comic reader. Because as long as it gives me a book that's interesting, I'll give it a free pass. I won't be like, oh, well, the characterization here, yeah, there is some minor characterization flaw that's kind of not as like, well, you said something here, but it's not, yada yada yada. Luke Cage is kind of weird here, but it's not too noticeable for me at least. And that's coming from, it's also coming from a guy who's not read a whole lot of Luke Cage comics, but he at least know how he's supposed to be portrayed. Even like in Alias, he was portrayed much differently than he is here. He was a lot more like, hard case, and here he's kind of like more like agreeable, so to speak. But it makes sense why he is. And I think if it was written by anyone more competent than Brian Michael Bendis, and then I'm talking modern Bendis, they probably would have explained it better, but they don't. Cause there is a way you could explain it why he is a bit more like agreeable, so to speak. Let's just say use that word. But it's never really fully explained. You kind of have to have your own interpretation of it. And the interpretation I have is as a family man, but it's kind of like, I don't know. It's one of those things that doesn't make sense if you think about it. But other than that, I just really damn enjoyable. Really damn interesting. I liked it. And again, I read it the first time. Second time was just as enjoyable. Spider-Man and Deadpool. Bit clunky here and there, but last 2 issues made up for it. And again, yeah, it was a reread. I don't remember how I felt the first time, because I feel like I would have felt the first time I did the second time kind of thing, Nighthawk. This one I read it for the first time, I will not read this for the second time. It was just shy of being annoying. It was enjoyable enough, and kind of honestly, for David F. Walker, it's a disappointment, because I like David F. Walker a lot. Bitterroot was one of my favorite comics from Image, and honestly, one of the best comics I've read in a long time. Not as good as Preacher, obviously, but next to Wicked and Divine is my favorite Image comic. But anyways, Nighthawk was kind of a disappointment for David F. Walker, but it redeemed itself a bit here and there, but just like cool it with the political commentary. We get what you're going for, David F. Walker. You don't have to beat us over the head with it. You can be a little bit more subtle there. Angela, Asgard's Assassin, Kieran Gillen's worst book, honestly, that I've read. It's just boring, kind of, some parts are enjoyable, but it's just boring. And I'm only getting Volume 2 because I never read Volume 2. I was interested in it way back when, so to appease that part of me, I got Volume 2. But hopefully it's a bit, it wasn't like super boring. That's why I'm like not like, oh god, I'm gonna be reading Volume 2. Oh. It was still at least somewhat enjoyable. Like it wasn't like too annoying, but it was just a bit mediocre. I think mediocre is the best way to explain this comic. Magneto is anything but mediocre. It is a damn good book. Damn good writer Colin Bunn, and damn good series. Check this out immediately. And I mean everyone. And it's just, I read that book 3 times for the way. Each time it's even better. Moon Knight, Black, White, and Blood. The palate cleanser, or I'd like to call it, Black, White, and Blood is also known as the palate cleanser of the Marvel Comics. If you read a lot, if you've read a book that's dialogue heavy, this is something that's not as dialogue heavy. And a lot of these, sometimes they'll have like a complete silent. It's an anthology, so you have like 3 stories in one, and one of the 3 stories will be completely silent, or it won't be as dialogue heavy. But this is just it's enjoyable. It's it's a bit junky foody, but it's still enjoyable. And Jump still had a book in here. It's Joy in here. That's right too. Nice. But yeah, the palette cleanser, and yes, it was very big, and it was really nice oversized artwork too. Oh, I just did it at the end of the book, end of an issue rather. It's nice oversized artwork. Bit too big though. Yeah, that's just that, as they say, is that. Oh wait, no, I'm gonna do my out of 10. All right, so at the end, I like to do just to conclude it all, bring it full circle. I'll do a out of 10 reviews, starting with the movies. Okay, so I do that. Okay, 2 separate. A lot of books this time around too, but not more than that. I want to say it's not as much as I usually get. Sorry, no, it is as much as I usually get, but not anymore. Is what I was trying to say. Okay. I did Northman first. Northman 8 out of 10. Shazam 2 out of 10. Quantumania 2.5 out of 10. Flash 1.5 out of 10. Ooja Wooja 6.5 out of 10. Meet some in the middle. Squire 7.5 out of 10. Taproot 5.5 out of 10. Dirtbag Rapture 2 out of 10. Oh crap, it's Amazon. Is it Amazon? Oh no, it'd be. Oh my god, why does my Wi-Fi keep doing that? It's like, nope, 2 stops away. It's not them. It was, I heard a vrrr, but that I remember it was always USPS, but not Amazon. Anyways, Bloodborne 8 out of 10. I do gotta do that. 8 out of 10 for Bloodborne. Red Mother 9 out of 10. Planet of the Apes 7.5 out of 10. God is Dead Volume 3. Oh, I don't know any specified volume. God is Dead 7.5, 8.5 out of 10. Live Wire 5 out of 10. Wicked Divine 9 out of 10. Rain 7 out of 10. Walking Dead 9 out of 10. Graveyard Wars 6.5 out of 10. Green Arrow Year 1 8.5 out of 10. Thrill Killer 7 out of 10. Superman Emperor Joker 7.5 out of 10. Future's End 6 out of 10, but with an asterisk, as in it's enjoyable. So, but it's not like it's not as better than kind of thing. I don't want to put above a good book that okay, but I'm gonna put it at 7.5 out of 10. And I did Rain 7 out of 10. Like more, it's more enjoyable kind of thing. It's kind of like it's enjoyable, yes. But again, written 7.5 out of 10. Transmetropolitan 9.5 out of 10. Preacher is an easy 10 out of 10. Oh, and Red Mother gets the pick of the week. Poe Dameron 6 out of 10. Darth Vader and Star Wars both get 9s out of 10. The Defenders is a 6 out of 10. With an asterisk, like with Future's End. Spider-Man and Deadpool 6.5 out of 10. Yeah, no, 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10 with Deadpool. Nighthawk 5.5 out of 10. Angela 3.5 out of 10. Magneto a 9 out of 10. And to Moon Knight 6 out of 10 with an asterisk. That is that as they say is that. 36 minutes, not bad.